Hi and welcome back to another week of finding cheap ways to beef up your edits. Recently we did a video on how to create really simple but cool looking transitions in camera. Let's get out of here. Transitions can play a really...
Let's do this. All right, to the premiere.
And one of the things I realized after that video is that we never talked about how much sound effects can add to the power of those transitions, especially when it comes to really quick transitions like the whip transition. So for the whip transition, now if you're into this kind of fast-paced editing, I can tell you, you're definitely going to need a bunch of good whoosh sound effects. There are, of course, a bunch of these that you can buy online, but since we have unlimited time and it's also really fun and trendy to make your own things from scratch at a really low cost, I figured let's look at some ways that we can create our own whoosh sound effects with really simple equipment. Alright, even if you don't know anything about audio recording or sound mixing or music production, it really doesn't matter. This doesn't even require an audio editing software on your computer because we're going to do it all in the video editing software. I am also going to use the Voice Memos app on my iPhone to record the audio for this. If you happen to have better audio recording equipment, then by all means go ahead and use it. It's probably going to sound a little bit better. But for this video, I'm going to go completely basic and I'm going to show you how to do it with a phone. First thing, open the app, Voice Memos, and let's dig into this. I know this is going to look really silly, but bear with me. I hope you're going to appreciate the result from this. You can also cover up the microphone with, for example, a sock to cut out some of the hard hits. And then you just save the recordings and send them to yourself somehow so that you can work with them in the computer. Alright, so before you start laughing at how simple and basic this is, I'm gonna show you how to work with these sound effects that we've just created in the computer as well. But before we do that, just because we have even more time to kill today, why don't we try out a few other things as well? Import the recordings to your video editing software. I will be using Final Cut Pro 10, but most softwares will allow you to do most of this, or at least very similar stuff. I highlight the segments that I want to use, and I make sure to let the effect run until it is as quiet as it can be at the end. And this is a good thing to remember when doing the recordings, to let the sound continue for a while after the main whoosh is over. With the whooshes I want to work with lined up in my timeline, I can start to play with the sound. This is of course very much dependent on what you want the effect to sound like. So don't take this as a definite and only workflow. There are also many more advanced ways to clean up and work with audio to get it perfect. So to all of you audio specialists out there, don't give me a hard time now. This is just a simple way of doing it. In Final Cut Pro, we have several built-in effects that work well for this. First, I go up to the inspector window up here and look at the audio enhancements. It is set to flat by default, and I'm going to change this to bass boost. And if we want, we can manually change the equalizer as well by clicking the icon here to the right. Now, the big changes I'm going to do are down here in the effects browser. I'm going to start by going down to what's called spaces. I'm going for a big, hollow kind of echoing feel, so I'm going to pick Cathedral, which I think sounds pretty cool. But you have several of different ones to choose from here, and many of them are going to sound pretty cool. And then I'm going to add some reverb. And then I'm going to fade in the endpoints, both the beginning and the end. And for this set, I'm also going to add one more. I'm going down to voice. And I'm going to pick Alien. I've done all the additions to one sound effect so far, and I want the same treatment for the rest of the clips in this timeline, all of the ones that I've chosen. So I copy the adjusted layer, highlight the other clips, and then go to Edit and pick Paste Attributes. This will give the same treatment to all of the other highlighted clips in my timeline. You will also need to adjust the levels of the audio. Now, you can either adjust the level of the whole clip, or if you want just a certain segment of the clip to stand out more, you can raise the levels of just that segment. But for this first batch, I'm going to adjust the levels of the whole clip. When you feel happy with your adjustments, just export the clip as an audio only and pick an audio format that you like. I'm gonna pick AIFF here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with all of the other recordings that I want to have. And I'm not going to make them all sound the same. I'm going to give them different effects. Remember that you can add many different effects to the same recording to get many different sound effects out of the same recording, which is pretty good. Now I want to bring up the train recordings. These are really long clips because it took so long for the trains to pass. Now, for many of these sound effects on many of these recordings, and I want to say actually most of them, you would want to speed up the actual whoosh for it to sound the best, and especially for these train recordings. So first, I'm going to give the whole clip the effects that I want, and then I'm going to use the range selector tool, shortcut R in Final Cut, to change the speed of the audio levels of different parts of the effect. And I'm specifically going to speed up and increase the volume of the actual whoosh part. Again, you can play with this a lot more and come up with some really creative effects, but these first steps will hopefully get you started at least. And here's what some of the sounds I exported from these recordings ended up like. Alright, hope you enjoy that and found it useful. I think it's really fun when you know that you've created your own stuff from scratch and then you put it in your own videos. I want to throw out a big thank you to all of our Patreon supporters, and as an extra bonus, if you are supporting us through the Patreon page, I'm going to provide you guys with a download link. You can download all of the whoosh sound effects that we have created today and then use them in any production that you might have going on now or in the future. I also want to thank everyone else for watching the video, and stay tuned for the video coming out next week.